6:06 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Good morning, Boston. Hour one of the Kuhner Report. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 680-680. A lot to talk about today. Well, we've arrived, Kuhner country. We have arrived. Now, I got to tell you, the rally that we held on Saturday, which defied all expectations, has now made you, made this show, made your dear host, public enemy number one for many liberals and progressives. I mean, they're gunning for us. They're calling us every name in the book. That's the way they operate. That's the way they are. They can't deal with our arguments. They can't deal with our facts. They can't deal with the justness of our cause. So what do they have left? Name calling. They're racist. They're bigots. They're nativists. They're bad. They're intolerant, bad people. And so we have shaken, and make no mistake about it, the rally on Saturday. The significance of that rally is that we have shaken the foundations of the liberal regime in this state to its very foundations. And the significance and meaning of the rally is that now there is a populist rebellion brewing, not just in this state, but all across the country. Now there are conservatives, independents, many moderate Democrats, Republicans, you name it, young, old, libertarians, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, whites, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. Veterans, everybody is lining up now, protesting Deval Patrick's plan to dump illegal immigrants into the state of Massachusetts and to house them at Cape Cod and Chicopee. And they couldn't believe that we could have that kind of a showing, that many people show up, because it shows the extent of the popular anger and backlash. We can't afford it. Our cities are strained to the breaking point. Lynn is saying no. Chelsea is saying no. Boston is saying no. Peabody is saying no. Quincy is saying no. Cape Cod, Bourne is saying no. Chicopee is saying, everybody's saying no. So now, because the people do not want this, because it will bankrupt us, strain our resources, bring in criminals, gangbangers, diseases. My God, now there's even more reports that there's an epidemic spreading of chickenpox on the border. You've got concerns about the Ebola virus. Yesterday, CBS, local CBS affiliate, Channel 4, Brittany? Channel 4. Said now doctors and nurses in Boston hospitals are being told to be on the lookout for the Ebola virus. And they're now asking people, have you been out of the country? Where have you gone? Have you gone to Liberia? Have you gone to Sierra Leone? Have you been anywhere near Nigeria? Because that's where the hotbed, the epicenter of the epidemic is. Now, I expected the liberal left to be denouncing us. I expected the one in particular they can't stand is my phrase. They're going to turn Massachusetts into Mexachusetts. Suddenly now, for many, that's racist. That's bigoted. That's nativist. That's offensive. No, don't say that. That hurts people's feelings. Is Mexico not the focal point for all of this massive illegal immigration? Is that not the major transit through the border? Is Mexico not a third world country? Is Mexico not a socialist country? Is Mexico not a banana republic? What are you people talking to me about? That's going to be our destiny 10, 20, 30 years from now if we don't wake up and stop the invasion now. It's a brilliant analogy. So now they have to manufacture racism to try to discredit me and smear me and demonize me. But this I get. I get this from Mini-Me, because that's what they do. And I get this from Bob DeLeo, because that's what they do. And I get this from the Grand Poobahs at the Boston Globe, because that's what they do. But what I find unforgivable is when we are betrayed by allegedly one of those that's supposed to be on our side. And the one I'm talking about in particular, you may say, Jeff, who are you talking about? Jeff Jacoby. I don't really read his stuff that often, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that good, but let that go. He is the supposed token columnist, the token conservative columnist at the Boston Globe. He's been doing it for many years. And Jeff Jacoby, as the token conservative on the Boston Globe, yesterday did a hit piece. A hit piece on us, a hit piece on the rally, a hit piece on all of us that want to stop illegal immigration, and a hit piece on yours truly, on the Kuhner man. And it's quite obvious when you read the piece what Jeff Jacoby is doing. Judas Jacoby is now he's shilling for his 30 pieces of silver. Because over the last year, the Boston Globe has been taken over by new ownership. And if it's possible, he's actually pushed the paper even further to the left. It's a Democratic rag. I mean, it's just it's a propaganda newsletter for the Democratic Party. And basically the Elizabeth Warren progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So he's supposedly now the token conservative on essentially the Pravda or the Izvestia of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so I don't know if it's job security. I don't know if he's trying to ingratiate himself with his editors. I don't know if his editors basically gave him a call and said, Judas, you got to take out the Kuhner people. You got to take out the Kuhner rally. Whatever it is, Jeff Jacoby wrote a column yesterday, or published a column yesterday. I mean, it's just bad. I mean, never mind just because I disagree with it or I'm the target of it. I mean, it's nothing more than childish drivel and a sophomoric way to devalue the rally. And so here is Jeff Jacoby. Let me read to you the column when you'll see for yourself. Now we have our own phony conservatives, Judas conservatives, fifth columnists, who are now shooting us in the back to ingratiate themselves with the liberal powers that be, their liberal overlords and masters, here in Massachusetts and at the Boston Globe. Brittany, roll the crybaby, roll the sad, tearful music. I'm Jeff Jacoby. God bless America. Now with irony, this is the title of my column. Where's my 30 pieces of silver? You got it ready? Okay, put it in a nice bag for me. Thank you. It was billed as a Stop the Invasion rally, and it drew thousands of protesters to the steps of the State House on Saturday. Outraged by Governor Deval Patrick's proposal that Massachusetts shelter some of the unaccompanied minors from Central America who have been surging across the border, the crowd chanted, "Send them home, send them home." Much of the rhetoric at the Beacon Hill rally was unhinged. Quote, "Our government sees no difference between law-abiding, freedom-loving, tax-paying citizens and law-breaking aliens," end quote, said Mark Fisher, a Tea Party conservative, running for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. But the real evildoer, talk radio host Jeff Kuhner invade against these, quote, gangsters in the governor's office and the Oval Office, unquote, who want to turn, quote, Massachusetts into Mexachusetts, unquote, and the United States into, quote, a socialist third world banana republic, end quote. These are nasty names. Why are you calling these nasty names? No, don't talk like that. That's impolite. That's insulting. I'm Jeff Jacoby. We don't insult people here at the Globe, except conservatives and Republicans. But even if the speeches were over the top, there is little reason to question the sincerity and patriotism of the protesters. Now, quick aside. You know, when they say that we're not going to question your patriotism, they're going to question your patriotism. But let that go. Back to Jeff Jacoby. They cheered as speakers invoked the sacrifices made by earlier American generations and ended the rally by singing, God bless America. I'm Jeff Jacoby, and I think I'm smart. Savor the irony. The composer of God Bless America was Irving Berlin, who came to America as a 5-year-old when his family, then named Berlin, fled Russia in 1893 to escape life-threatening pogroms. As an adult, Berlin had no memories of his early childhood in Russia, except for the terrifying attack that drove his parents to emigrate. According to his biographer, Berlin recalled, quote, lying on a blanket by the side of a road, watching his house burn to the ground. By daylight, the house was in ashes, unquote. The Berlins, like hundreds of thousands of other immigrants, fleeing some of the most dangerous places in the world, swarmed into the United States, whose gates were still wide open, as they would be until the 1920s. I'm Jeff Jacoby. I'm being very emotional now and very profound. I have my glasses on as I'm writing this. Yes, the Globe, my editors, the lefties are going to love me for this one. God Bless America, originally composed in 1918, is a love hymn by an immigrant to his adoptive country. A former child refugee who never ceased being grateful for the safe haven America afforded him. What would Berlin have thought of protesters in 2014 singing that song as they demand the expulsion of other desperate children flocking to America from other dangerous homelands? Today's anti-immigration advocates sometimes claim to oppose only illegal immigrants. A specious distinction, I'm Jeff Jacoby, that didn't exist for most of American history. Or they say they object only to the immigration-driven cost of welfare and public services, or to the nation's border not being secure, or to the refusal of immigrants to assimilate. Or they blame foreign governments for exporting undesirable people to the United States. How come they don't ask me, Jeff Jacoby? Or they argue meaninglessly that America already has enough people and can't be a refuge for everyone. This is now the big ultimate paragraph. I am the great Jeff Jacoby, the conservative hack for the Globe. Someone has to shill for his 30 pieces of silver. Someone had to be Judas. Might as well be me. But the same things more or less were said 50 or 100 or 150 years ago by earlier generations of nativists. Then it was said about immigrants from China, Italy, and Russia. Now it is said about those from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Stop the invasion, the protesters demand. I'm Jeff Jacoby. What they're really saying is, we got here first, and we don't need any more of your kind. I'm Jeff Jacoby. Please keep me on at the Boston Globe. I need the money. Thank you. This is pathetic. I mean, I'm up against it. I gotta go for a quick break. I mean, I'm gonna destroy this, dismantle it piece by piece, coming up next. But look at the implication. The rhetoric was unhinged. He's out and out saying we're a bunch of nativists. Basically, he's saying we're a bunch of racists. He's basically copying Elizabeth Warren. I got mine, you're on your own. We got here first and we don't need any more of your kind. Wink, wink, wink. They just don't like all these Central Americans. They just don't like all these Latinos coming across the border. I know what's in their heart. And they can talk about legal versus illegal immigration. They can talk about wages being undermined. They can talk about national security. They can talk about the rule of law. But deep down, I know what lurks in their hearts. And it's racism. It's race. It's hate. It's nativism. It's bigotry. Because I'm Jeff Jacoby. And I need to keep my job at the Boston Globe. My friends, I'm going to tear Jeff Jacoby apart, destroy his argument, and then I'll take your calls. My question to you is this. What do you make of this column by a so-called conservative who now is essentially stabbing his own side in the back to ingratiate himself with the ruling liberal class in the state? 623 on the great WRKO. Brittany, let's take it to Rush Limbaugh. 625 here on the great WRKO. So, my friends, Jeff Jacoby, supposed token conservative, really a phony conservative, at the Boston Globe, just writes a hatchet piece against us, against our rally, against Kuhner country, and against our stand against illegal immigration. And basically his argument in a nutshell is, we're a nation of immigrants. We've welcomed immigrants before. Why aren't we willing to welcome all of these? And he almost, I guess he thinks he's being cute by this or witty. He quotes Irving Berlin, who wrote the song God Bless America, whose family fled from Russia, and they sought salvation and a haven here in the United States of America. And his point is that they were nativists who feared all of these immigrants coming in the 19th century, and had they had their way, there would have been no Irving Berlin, there would have been no God Bless America, the song that we sang at the end of our rally, and most of us, our ancestors, wouldn't have been able to be here. And so basically Jeff Jacoby says we're racists, we're nativists, we just don't like their kind, meaning Central Americans who happen to be of Latino or Hispanic descent. I got to tell you, if this is not a sophomoric argument, I don't know what is. First of all, let's get a couple of points straight. Number one, the United States in the 19th century is very different from the United States today. In the 1820s, we were a young nation. We were primarily a rural agricultural nation. We were just beginning to develop the Industrial Revolution. The Erie Canal began in 1817. It was completed in 1825. We were just beginning the Industrial Revolution. The population of the United States in the 1820s, 9 million people. We had a wilderness in front of us. And so we were building factories. We were building all kinds of mills. We were building roads. We were building railroads. We were expanding as a country into an industrial power. So we needed labor, and we needed lots of labor. And so, for example, people don't know this, but take here in Massachusetts, Lynn, on the outskirts of Boston, was considered the shoe capital of the world. Lynn was a major mill town. And so immigrants were welcomed and needed. Look at America in 2014. We now have 92 million Americans out of the labor force. Our population is over 315 million. The real unemployment rate is 13, 14, 15%. What is this guy talking about? That's point number one. Point number two, which is to me the most important point of all. We are a nation built on the rule of law. It's really akin to this. What Jeff Jacoby is basically saying is people can do whatever they want. They don't have to respect our laws. They can come in, break the law. Well, it's akin to this. Jeff Kuhner, you have a Corvette. Brittany Jennings, you have a Corvette. How come you're allowed to have a Corvette and I'm not allowed to have a Corvette? I'm going to go and steal a Corvette. Or better yet, here, the Boston Globe, his own paper. Jeff, tell me, how come you're allowed to be a columnist at the Boston Globe and nobody else is? How come the Globe says you have to have certain qualifications to be able to be a columnist at the Boston Globe? How come you're closing off the pages of the Boston Globe? Why can't Bill Cooksey be a columnist at the Boston Globe? Why can't Brittany be a columnist at the Boston Globe? Why can't anybody off the street be a columnist at the Boston Globe? In other words, there is a legal procedure. There is a way to do things legally. If you don't, you have utter anarchy. Why should anybody follow the law on anything? If people can just come in here, do what they want, and here, my friends, is the mother of all points. When Irving Berlin came to the United States of America, unlike many of these gangs that are now crossing the border, here, Texas Governor Rick Perry himself said that now, over the last 5 years, many of these illegal immigrants have committed over 8,000 crimes, sexual assaults, 3,000 murders. Over 100,000 illegal immigrants have been arrested for all kinds of violent crimes in the last 5 years alone. Irving Berlin didn't come to murder. He didn't come to rape. He didn't come to pillage. He didn't come to rob. He didn't come in and smuggle in cocaine and methamphetamines. They came to work. They came to produce. They came to give. And here is the ultimate irony. And then I gotta go because I'm up against it. Jeff Jacoby calls me a nativist and a racist. How the hell am I a nativist? My parents fled communist Eastern Europe. They're of Croatian descent. I came as a legal immigrant to this country from Canada. My wife is a Canadian, came to this country legally, who's of Italian descent. I adopted 2 kids, Americans. One is of German descent, my little Ava is of Lebanese descent. What are you talking to me about? I came here respecting this country's laws, customs, and traditions. I came here and paid for one work visa after another and then a green card. I did it the right way. I came in legally. I came in respecting this country's constitution and sovereignty. I didn't come in like a thief in the dead of night to steal, to take, to go on welfare, to go on food stamps. Disrespecting your laws, disrespecting your customs. That's the difference. No, my friends, he doesn't have an argument. That's his problem. So all he's got left is playing racism, racism, racism. Well, I'm sorry, Jeff, Judas Jacoby. You've gone to that well one too many times. All of you have. It's not working anymore. Nobody's buying it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff Jacoby, token columnist, Judas Jacoby at the Boston Globe, says that essentially the rally was a nativist hate fest. What do you say to that? Is Jeff Jacoby right? Is he wrong? I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. All of your calls. Next. 641 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. So the Boston Globe has basically sent out their token phony conservative, Jeff Judas Jacoby, to basically do a hit piece on you, on us, on the rally, on the Kuhner man for our opposition to illegal immigration. And in a nutshell, he basically says, well, Irving Berlin, he says it's ironic that we ended the rally singing God Bless America when it was an immigrant who came to America from Russia in the 19th century, 1893, Irving Berlin, who actually wrote basically a love hymn to his country. And you see, if people like us had prevailed then, there would have been no God Bless America, and most of us in the crowd wouldn't even be in America. And so basically Jeff Jacoby says nativism has been in America going back hundreds of years, and at our core we are all nothing more than nativist racists, those of us that oppose illegal immigration. And what we're really saying is, to all these Central American immigrants, we don't want your kind here. Let me ask Judas Jacoby this. Jeff, tell me, when Irving Berlin's family came, did they get Section 8 housing? Did they get welfare? Did they get EBT cards? Did they get food stamps? Did they get free health care? Did they get, I guess they didn't have phones then, did they get a free telegraph? Jeff, did they come in here to abuse the benefits of this country? Or did they come here like me, a legal immigrant, to assimilate, to work, to produce? Tell me, were they bringing in gangs? Did they have MS-13 stamped on their face? Was Irving Berlin's father, did he have an MS-13 stamped on his forehead and on his cheeks? Were they smuggling cocaine? Were they smuggling methamphetamines? Were they bringing in gang after gang after gang, murdering, raping, pillaging, robbing? Jeff, this is not even my point. To be fair, this is Bill Cooksey's point, and it's an absolutely brilliant one. What is going on now with illegal immigration, this invasion, and now Obama's threat to sign an executive amnesty, is whether America as a nation itself will exist. Now, it may sound drastic. You may say, Jeff, oh my God, it's Jeff Jacoby is going to say again, the rhetoric's over the top, Jeff. No, think about it. Just think about it logically. If the president sidesteps the people's representatives, Congress, to sign an executive order at the behest of people, foreigners from another country, remember, he's going to circumvent Congress to sign an executive order to essentially give legalization to millions of people at the behest of foreigners from another country. What's the point of having representatives anymore? The president is acting at the whim and at the will of foreigners who've broken our laws, ignoring our own representatives. How is this jingoistic? How is this the rantings of a nativist? This is constitutional republicanism 101. This is about our own democracy. We have laws. And the problem with Jeff Judas Jacoby, the problem with you, Jeff, and Senator Chief Spreading Bull Elizabeth Warren, is that you try to make every issue about the haves and the have-nots. I have yours, you're on your own. We're here in America, we don't want your kind. It's not going to work anymore. You've gone to that well one too many times. It's a fraud. It's a scam. It's a sham. You're not going to scare us with your demagoguery. You get it, Jeff? You're just not. Now, I have to now address this, and then I want to open it up to the phone lines. Why now is the Boston Globe and supposedly conservative columnist Judas Jacoby, why now am I, Jeff Kuhner, being called a racist, a nativist, and every other derogatory, obscene word in the book? Because I emigrated from Canada, along with my wife? Because I filled out all the paperwork? Jumped through all the hoops? Gotten all the visas? Was told by this government that they needed my kind of skills and education? Paid all the fees, nearly $25,000, obtained my green card legally, adopted 2 American children who go back generations? Why am I now public enemy number 1? Because I followed the law? Because I respected and loved this country? Because I respected your customs and traditions? Because I came here not to speak Croatian or French, but to speak English and master English and assimilate? Because I love this country so much, I fight for it every day and I fight for its survival? Because I assimilated, because I came to this country the right way, the legal way, the American way. Jeff, I followed your country's laws. Those at the southern border and the illegal immigrants didn't. I am Irving Berlin. And all of the other millions of legal immigrants in this country were Irving Berlin. Those gangsters at the border, those illegal immigrants and criminals, they're not Irving Berlin. They're invaders. And it's about time we send every single one of them home. Jeff, if you're listening, thank you, and God bless America. Joe, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Hey, nice to talk to you, Jeff. I had the pleasure of being at the rally, the many thousands, and what I noted was that little media covered it, and I wonder why. And it's kind of ironic. By the way, I don't know whether I'd use the term immigrant. I tend to think migrant is a better word, because immigrants like my father, who, by the way, was an unaccompanied minor using today's parlance. He was 15 when he came from this country, 3rd grade education. And you know what, Jeff? He made it in America. Hard work, diligence. And they cut off immigration to my ethnicity for 40, 50 years. You couldn't get anybody into this country if you came from Southern Europe. And I remember my father's youngest brother who didn't quite make it, and they finally had him jump ship, and they scurried him off to Detroit, Michigan, and 25 years later, INS got him, and you know what they did? Deported him. Exactly. You know, and all of those folks, Jeff Jacoby hasn't a clue what nativist means. And that's the whole point. I mean, was I a nativist? I mean, my parents, I'm bilingual. I'm an immigrant kid. And all of the folks that I saw at your rally from my hometown, I was surprised to see them all, and I know their backgrounds. Every single one of them is either first or second generation. The last thing they are nativists. The last thing they are jingoistic. They're Americans first, Jeff, and that's why they were there.
And that's their crime. You see, to the elites in this state,
I don't see anybody running down from Canada into the United States. We don't have a problem with the northern border, which is far more extensive than the southern border. I wonder why, Jeff.
Bingo. Thank you for that call, Joe. No, to the liberal, phony, conservative. Look, let's be honest. Jeff Jacoby, he's, you know what he is? He's the Charlie Baker of conservative punditry in this state. He's vanilla. He stands for nothing. He hasn't opposed the venal democratic regime that's run this state into the ground. He's basically there as a puff guy, a token guy to stand there. He'll God bless him. He'll defend Israel once in a while, as I do, and the globe will tolerate him. And maybe on welfare reform, he'll take a couple of shots at the liberals, but essentially, he's a safe, quote-unquote, respectable conservative, who they can then take out whenever they want and say, oh, Kuhner is so radical. Oh, these people at the rally are so radical. Even a conservative like Jeff Jacoby says they're unhinged. He's a Judas. 617-266-6868 is the number. He doesn't even know what nativism means. Think about it, okay? Think about it. Why does every country in the world protect their borders? Why? So, are Canadians full of nativists? Mexico protects its border. Russia, Germany, France, England, Japan, China. I could go on and on. So, basically, what Jeff Jacoby is saying is, the whole world is composed of racists and nativists, except the dear leader, the governor, Mini-Me, Chief Spreading Bull, and Jeff Jacoby. Those are the lunatics that write at the Boston Globe. And he calls himself a conservative. Laura, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Jeff. Everybody stole my thunder. One thing, a couple of points. One thing they did acknowledge is that there were thousands, not a couple of hundred, at the rally.
Yes.
And two, you stole my thunder. Everybody that came here in the 19th century worked and learned to speak English. They built this country. These people are here to come and rape and pillage and live off the system, and they're going to bring this country. They're going to tear down this country.
Laura, you're completely 110% right. And look, first of all, the number was closer to 10,000. State police told me that. Boston Police Department told me that. The pictures show you how many people came. So first they tried, not many people showed up. Hundreds, a couple of hundred. Okay, maybe 1,000. Now they say thousands. Now some are saying 5,000. Everybody knows it was 10,000. So here you had, okay, I want you to think about this. I met a guy from the Dominican Republic. Jeff, I came here legally. I can't stand these illegal immigrants. I had a guy from Iraq, an Iraqi Christian, say, Jeff, I came here legally. I despise illegal immigration. I got emails from a woman, she's from Greece. She said, Jeff, finally somebody speaking up for legal immigrants in this country. So let me get this straight. We had Dominicans. We had Greeks. We had Venezuelans. We had all across the Russians, Ukrainians, everybody there who came legally. And they're all nativists now. Because they believe you should follow the rule of law and respect this country's sovereignty? So, no, I'll tell you what, Jeff. How come you have a column? No, since everybody has a right to everything, tell me, Jeff, why don't you get rid of your column and get Bill Cooksey to write a column? How come you close off the borders of the Boston Globe, Jeff? Suddenly. No. Oh, we have standards. We have procedures. Oh, there's qualifications to be a columnist. Oh, you mean unlike becoming an American, Jeff? Unlike immigrating to the United States, Jeff? You fraud, you phony. Peter, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome. Hello, Peter. Did we lose Peter? Okay. Bill, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Bill.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, Bill.
Jeff, I've been profiled by Jeff Jacoby. I'm standing there on Beacon Street with an open mind, just listening to the speakers, not really sure how I feel about it all. And he assumes that I'm in lockstep with everybody on the stage. That's absurd.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but think about it, Bill. He basically says he knows what's in our hearts. It doesn't matter what we say, whether they're abusing the welfare system, whether we're going bankrupt, whether it's leading to higher crime, undermining wages. He says, oh no, they make all these arguments, but deep down, I and the other Brahmins at the Boston Globe, oh no, we know what they really think. Unlike us, they're haters. 617-266-6868. More with your calls next.
News at the top and bottom, talk in between.
Executing assigned host duties flawlessly because I can't do wrong.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam.
on the great WRKO AM 680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. That, of course, was Kuhner Country singing God Bless America at the end of our Stop the Invasion rally on Saturday, which Jeff Jacoby, in his column, The Token Conservative, or I guess phony conservative, Judas Jacoby, shilling for the Boston Globe. They had to do a hit piece, might as well be Jeff Jacoby. And so Judas Jacoby said that in his column yesterday, that hearing us sing God Bless America filled him with just so much irony, because the composer of God Bless America was, guess what? An immigrant, Irving Berlin, who came to America at 5 years of age, fleeing pogroms in Russia in 1893, and because America gave a safe haven to him and to his family and to thousands like him, he composed the song God Bless America. And so according to Jeff Jacoby, who's basically an open borders phony conservative, there were nativists who opposed immigration in the 19th century. And so what he heard on the steps of the State House on Saturday was exactly what he reads about nativists arguing 50, 100, 150 years ago. Then they didn't want immigrants from China, Italy, and Russia. Today it's being said about those from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And so as Jeff Jacoby concludes his column, what they're really saying, in other words, what we were really saying, quote, we got here first and we don't need any more of your kind. That essentially at our core, we're all a bunch of racist nativists. We're bigots. Because we don't appreciate the irony that Irving Berlin was an immigrant. And that had people like us won out in the 19th century, God Bless America would never have been composed, and most of us wouldn't even be here because our ancestors would have been blocked. I'm Jeff Jacoby. I think I'm smart. I write for the Boston Globe. And I quote Henry Cabot Lodge attacking the new Irish immigrants in the 19th century, and I think I'm brilliant. I mean, this is so pathetic on so many levels. Here, Jeff, here is a major report that I want all of you to be aware of, okay? This is what the likes of Jeff Jacoby and his fellow radical liberal allies don't want you to know about. Let me ask you, did Irving Berlin and the Russian immigrants who came, or the Polish immigrants, or the Irish immigrants, or the Chinese immigrants, or the Italian immigrants, tell me, were they writing reports about them in the 19th century and the early 20th century that we're now getting from the border in Texas? Okay, check this out. This is a big hat tip to FoxNews.com. This is an absolutely brilliant exclusive that they have. Every week, multiple agencies along the Texas border bring together file reports, and then they basically centralize them into one overarching report. So you have something called, in Texas, it's called the Texas Department of Public Safety's Border Security Operations Center. In plain English, they take the reports from local law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement. They compile them into one large report, which they issue every week about what's happening at the border. FoxNews.com obtained a report for the week of July 16 to 23 alone. So this is an official Texas government report from people, unlike Jeff Jacoby, who are, I'm not talking about writing in some pad in Boston in their underwear picking their nose. I'm talking about people who actually know what they're talking about. They're on the front lines. They're there. They're witnessing everything. These are our Border Patrol agents and law enforcement. So In 1 week alone, this is now what all of the agencies, law enforcement agencies in Texas are now reporting. This is for the week of July 16th to 23rd. And they also showed memos to the Fox News reporters that senior Border Patrol officials have said if anybody leaks this to the media, they will be fired. The Obama administration, the regime, doesn't want you to know what's happening down at the border. They don't want you to know what's really taking place. Okay? So, they basically put their jobs on the line by showing and exposing what was in the report. So, what was in the report? Here it is. In 1 week alone, July 16th to the 23rd, according now to this official law enforcement report from Texas, along the Texas-Mexico border, U.S. authorities apprehended 6,028 illegal immigrants, 4,152 of whom were not from Mexico. Most, in fact, came from Central America. But there were also people from, check this out, Malaysia, Morocco, which has a huge Islamist population, China, Cuba, India, among other nations. They're coming in from all over. They're coming in from all over. We don't know who they are. They're not being screened. We don't know if they're Russian gangbangers. We don't know agents of the Chinese. We have no idea. There's a radical Muslim population within India, especially in Kashmir. Terrorists. We have no idea who we're allowing through the border. That's just in 1 week alone. But it gets worse. The 83-page report, again, this is just 1 week, July 16th to the 23rd reveals, among other things, that authorities seized $478,879 in U.S. currency. Stashes of money, cash, greenbacks. Recovered more than 7 tons of marijuana, street value $6.35 million. And turned up more than $1 million worth of cocaine and methamphetamine. They're smuggling cocaine. They're smuggling in meth. They're bringing in wads of cash. They're bringing in marijuana. They're coming in with all kinds of stashes of money. Let me ask you this. When Irving Berlin came, when the Irish and the Italians and the Chinese came, tell me, were they importing massive amounts of cocaine, meth, and marijuana? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here, Jeff. It goes on to say, okay, but it gets much worse. Forget the drugs. Forget the money. The report also revealed Texas parks and wildlife game wardens routinely encountered illegal immigrants. Ooh, and what's this? And gang members. No. You mean there are gangbangers coming in? No. I thought it was all about the children. I thought these were all little 6, 7, 8-year-old children, as George Will put it, with little teddy bears coming in. You mean no, there are gang members? No. Oh. Detained hundreds of gang members to be turned over to the Border Patrol agents. 1 week. Brittany saying the Irish fleeing the potato famine didn't have cocaine and $500,000. I know, but hey, let that go. What are facts when you're dealing with juvenile emotion like Jeff Jacoby? Okay, but let that. Hey, he's got to keep his job at the Boston Globe. I don't blame him. He's shilling for his 30 pieces of silver. One Border Patrol agent reported being hit in the head with a rock. They basically smashed his head while trying to seize a raft used to ferry illegal immigrants across the river. A game warden attempted to seize a raft and was assaulted on the head with a rock that was thrown from the Mexican riverbank, according to the report. The subject then, the person who threw the rock, smashed his head, surrounded himself with children to avoid countermeasures. Wardens patrolling the river heard approximately 15 rounds of automatic gunfire in Mexico. A total of 55 illegal aliens were detained. I'm reading straight from the report. So basically they were being shot at. Next. By the way, again, this is just 1 week. Game wardens also reported seeing people wearing black uniforms and armed with rifles on the Mexican side of the river. And they said gunshots from automatic weapons were heard throughout the night on at least 4 different occasions. Tell me, Jeff, when Irving Berlin came, when the Irish and the Italians came, were they shooting us up at the border? Jeff, did they come in camouflage and fatigues? When Berlin's father came, did he come in some kind of a camouflage fatigue with a Kalashnikov? Did he come in there shooting the place up? I'm just thinking out loud here, Jeff. Check out this one, which is the media does not want to report, and Obama doesn't want you to know, because this would lead to such anger and fury. It would close the border immediately. And I've said this repeatedly, and I'm choosing my words carefully, and now it's completely validated in the report. Our Border Patrol agents are literally under attack. They are being fired upon by the Mexican drug cartels and their enablers in the Mexican military. According to the report, across the river from Reynosa, Mexico, our Border Patrol agents had been forced to run for cover when rounds of .50 caliber gunfire were shot from the Mexican side to the U.S. side of the Rio Grande. Without any, I'm reading now straight from the report, without any protection from such high caliber rounds, the agents were forced to hide until the barrage stopped. Federal and state sources who work in the area said they believe the gunfire continued for about 15 minutes. This is what our our border guys are being shot at with machine guns. According to a Border Patrol agent who can't be named or else he'll lose his job for speaking to the media. Quote, he told this to FoxNews.com. This happens all the time. We're out on the border. Often we are alone and all you hear is gunfire. We are sitting ducks, he goes on to say, and it's only getting worse. Every night it gets worse. Tell me, Jeff, was Irving Berlin, all those immigrants that came from, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, Ireland, China, where did they? Tell me, when my Croatian ancestors came to settle in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Chicago, when they came in the late 19th century, Jeff, were they machine gunning you guys at Ellis Island? I'm just thinking out loud here, Jeff. Let me give you some bullet points, and then I got to go to a break, and I want to take your calls. July 16 to July 23rd. This is exactly what law enforcement has now reported to the Texas Public Center Operations. Quote, I'm giving you now bullet points. Number 1. The Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office arrested 32 members of gangs that included the Voluco, Texas Chicano Brothers, Sureno 13, Texas Syndicate, Tango Blast, the Latin Kings. Just like gang heaven down there. Next, U.S. Border Patrol agents detained a dozen suspected gang members trying to cross the border, including, alleged members of the infamous Salvadoran gang MS-13, literally considered the most violent gang in the world. You have to kill somebody as an initiation to get into the gang. I thought they were 8-year-old kids with teddy bears. No, not MS-13. No, come on. No. You nativists, you. I bet you every single one of these Border Patrol agents, every one of them, they're all a bunch of racist nativists. They're making this up. They're just making it up. A homeowner called Rio Grande City Police to report 3 men who said they crossed into the U.S. were at her door asking for water. Now, check it. Imagine you being a rancher down there. When cops arrived, this is one of the person asking for water. One admitted to being an active MS-13 gang member. Was it the 13 tattooed on the cheek or on the forehead that gave it away? I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm just, guessing. American reporters were threatened by rifle-toting smugglers from across the river. Next, 2 Edinburgh, Texas officers were shot and wounded by a Texas syndicate gang member wanted for murder during a multi-agency hours-long standoff in La Jolla. So 2 cops got shot and were severely wounded by another illegal alien gangbanger. They found dozens of photos and mugshots of illegal immigrants, some of them juveniles, proudly displaying gang-related tattoos. And here is the kicker. This violence is coming from Mexico, and it is spilling across the border into the United States. But we're not hearing what's happening in Mexico. These are the kinds of animals that we're dealing with. This is what we're letting into the country. Listen to me carefully, okay? Listen to me. Forget Central America. The real war zone is Mexico. Here is what the report also notes. The report also notes significant events in Mexico. A section of this includes reports, check this out, mass graves found right near the border, piles of dead bodies executed by the drug cartels and these gangs, an oil pipeline explosion likely due to illegal siphoning. They're blowing up oil pipelines to steal the oil. Cartel extortion of migrants heading toward the U.S. border. So these coyotes are extorting and raping these supposedly unaccompanied minors and profiting off of their misery. That's what Obama is creating by allowing this magnet of amnesty. They're imposing tolls on all those who use the highways. Hey, they'd be phenomenal for us here in Mass. We could use them on the Tobin Bridge, on the Pike. The libs, they love tolls. Now I know why they all love these MS-13 gangbangers. And the murders of Mexican law enforcement agents. They're dropping like flies in Mexico. Now, I ask you, Jeff Jacoby, Judas Jacoby, the Boston Globe, all you liberal haters out there, if our border patrol is being attacked, if gangbangers are coming in by the hundreds in 1 week, if cops are being shot and wounded, if drugs are being smuggled in, if ranchers are under siege, how the hell is this not an invasion? 728 here on the great WRKO. Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, good to talk to you. Listen, due to an injury, I was unable to go to the rally last week, but out of curiosity, I called the Globe, and I was told it wasn't very many people. There was maybe 300 or 400, and it was a pretty tepid turnout. So that's exactly what I would expect to hear from the Globe, which outside of the sports page, the Globe is best used for something for puppies to soil. I just wanted to bring up a point. I have friends that were Australians and both school administrators. They had to jump through hoops to get it. It took them 2.5 years to get into this country. And now you can just walk in. It's
so wrong. Mike, it's funny. I was saying that to Cooksey on the way in. I said, Cooks, so many legal immigrants were thanking me after that rally and after my speech, because I don't think Americans realize, and we're not complaining. We're not. I'm speaking now as a legal immigrant. But I don't think Americans realize when you do it the right way, the hoops you got to go through, the fees you have to pay, the paperwork. It's a nightmare. Now, please don't get me wrong, I would do it all over again 10 times over. But to see, and you mean you just walk on in and there's your green card? Just because you're part of a powerful voting bloc? Hey, if they give amnesty, I swear, God is my witness, I want my $25,000 back and all the hundreds of hours of time I had to spend filling out forms and complying with rules and regulations, pain and suffering. And I'm going to ask every legal immigrant to join me in a massive class action lawsuit. Believe me. No. What's right is right. So, no, this comes down to basic respect, fairness, and equality. We played by the rules. So should you. Judy, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on the Kuhner Report. Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, with regard to your coming from Canada, you have more in common with Irving Berlin than Jeff Jacoby does. I emailed him immediately after I saw his report. I sent him a copy of the Ellis Island people who came in, which had Irving Berlin's name on it. I indicated he came here, he was not ill, he would have gone to the hospital and be returned. Meanwhile, I saw the change in this country when I get all my bills in Spanish and English. We don't get our bills in Russian and English. We don't have the Russian flag hanging in the schools while we hide our American flags. He came here and his God Bless America was because he loved this country. He did not come here. There was no welfare at that time. So the comparison is absolutely ridiculous.
Very well said, Judy. As I said before, and I'll say it again, Jeff Kuhner is Irving Berlin. 7:39 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull, or in this case, Jeff Jacoby's bull. Brittany, do we still have some of that audio from the God Bless America that we sang at the rally? Yeah, can you play a little bit of it there? So, in yesterday's Boston Globe, Jeff Jacoby, the sort of token conservative, phony conservative, really, he does the bidding of his paymasters at the Boston Globe, wrote a hit piece on the rally, on me, on you, on us, basically saying we're all a bunch of nativists. That, as he put it, we're in the country and we don't want your kind here. And he thinks he's being brilliant by saying, but, the irony is, I'm Jeff Jacoby, and I think I'm very smart. I write for the Boston Globe. Irving Berlin, the man who wrote God Bless America, he says, was an immigrant. And so we should welcome everybody, legal or illegal. Listen to the hate. Listen to the hate. Look at these nativists. Look at these racists. Brittany, I can't take the hate anymore. I can't take it anymore. Turn it off. I can't. That was a Klan rally. That was the Klan. This is what passes for, quote, conservative commentary at the Boston Globe? So let me ask Jeff Jacoby this, okay? Because this is what it comes down to. Should we then, by his definition, if it's nativist and racist to want to secure the border, to say we can only allow in so many a year based upon the national interest of the United States. If we're there, if everyone has a right to come into the United States, why not take in all of Central America? Why not take in all of Latin America? Why not take in all of Africa? Why not take in all of Mother Russia? You don't think there's a lot of Ukrainians right now who want to come? I'll tell you this, I got a lot of family members back in the ancestral homeland in Croatia. Believe me, I can empty half of Croatia in 24 hours. They'll be more than happy to come on down. Why don't we just take in the whole world? This is how utterly insane their argument is. We take in legal immigration, 800,000 to 1 million a year. That's more than enough. In fact, to be honest with you, a sane, sensible country, I was explaining this to Cooksey, says to themselves, okay, what do we need? Do we need skilled labor, unskilled labor? Do we need engineers? Do we need doctors? Do we need rocket scientists? What do we need? And that's who we allow into the country. Now, honestly, I do believe this country is a very generous country. My father was a DP. My grandfather was a refugee. Believe me, I have nothing but sympathy and compassion for refugees. I've written about this before. You should have an immigration policy based strictly on the national interest. What does the country need at the time? And then, I would say, because we're an incredible, generous country, we should make a separate provision for 200,000 refugees to come every year. That would mean 1 million over 5 years. Not 11 to 20 million illegal immigrants flooding the country. When you do it orderly, you screen them, you make sure they are who they are, and you make sure they're genuine refugees. Now, let me ask all of you this. If we were to really have this policy, they say they care about the children. You know who would be first in line? The children of Nigeria. The Christians who are being slaughtered by Islamist terrorists. How about those genuine refugees who helped us in Iraq and are now being tortured, crucified, and burned to death? Being slaughtered like dogs in the streets. They helped us. They risked everything to cooperate with our presence, our troops when we were there overseeing their country. And now Al-Qaeda and ISIS is slaughtering them. How about those Afghan translators who risked their lives to work with our troops because they wanted a better Afghanistan and they wanted to defeat the Taliban? How come we're not offering them refugee status? How come we don't care about their children? Why is it just because you come from Central America, suddenly you have a special right to come into this country? To me, the hypocrisy is stunning. It's unbelievable. So, real refugees who are fleeing real wars or real Islamist violence, blank you. You collaborated with us in Iraq, blank you. Let ISIS slaughter you. You collaborated with our troops in Afghanistan. I had a guy call up the show, a Marine, admitted he had PTSD. Said he's worried about an Afghan who did nothing but help the American troops. He served as a translator. He's a moderate Muslim. He hated the Taliban. He's been working with us for years. The moment we leave, he says the Taliban is going to slaughter him and his entire family. He's despondent. He doesn't know what to do. That's who you allow in as refugees. People who love America. People who've collaborated and formed an alliance with America. You don't just allow anybody to come into the country, unscreened, unvetted. And remember, I warned this several weeks ago. You're already seeing, as Mayor Judy Kennedy said, huge increase in tuberculosis. Now they're finding measles. Here, now a report on the border. Massive outbreak of chickenpox. Scabies. Now they're worried about the swine flu. What is now everybody talking about? Ebola. The Ebola virus. USA Today, front page story. USA Today, not some conservative right-wing news outlet. They are now saying they are one flight away from coming into the United States. You can see a potential pandemic. WBZ reported yesterday that now in Boston hospitals are now telling doctors and nurses to be on the watch, to be on the lookout for a potential outbreak of Ebola. Here in Boston. Okay, the Peace Corps with their volunteers from African countries. They pulled them. The Peace Corps has now pulled out their volunteers in African countries because they're now afraid of contracting Ebola. Of course you police your borders. Of course you secure your borders. They've been doing this at Ellis Island for hundreds of years. They made sure you didn't have diseases. If you had diseases, you were quarantined or sent back. Ebola. 90% death rate if you get Ebola. It is a killer. It is an absolute killer. Yeah, Brittany's telling me there's another story coming out now. The chickenpox outbreak in the at the Texas-Mexico border literally put the illegal immigrant facility, the refugee facility, on complete lockdown. Nobody can come in, nobody can come out. This is not an invasion. Are you mad? Look, and then I'm going to get to the phone lines. Let me honestly, God is my witness, tell you how I feel. Do you want to know how Jeff Kuhner really feels? I'm in an asylum, and I'm surrounded by inmates, and they've all got razors, and they want to start slitting their wrists. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. And they're like, what do you have against blood? What, are you a racist against us? We want to slit our wrists. We like slitting our wrists. It's good to slit our wrists. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? You are asking for major, major, major trouble. The Ebola virus. You bleed from your ears. You bleed, I swear to you, you bleed from your eyes. You bleed from your mouth. I mean, it's, your brain explodes in your head. So let me ask Jeff Jacoby this. Tell me, why don't you put your teenage son, why don't you put him in a classroom where he's got somebody with maybe that drug-resistant TB? Would you like that, Jeff Jacoby? How about somebody potentially with the Ebola virus? Would you like that, Jeff Jacoby? How about scabies? Would you like that, Jeff Jacoby? And all your other overlords at the Boston Globe. No. You send your kids to Brookline. You send your kids to good schools in Newton or Wellesley. You don't go to Lynn. You don't go to Chelsea. You don't go to Peabody. You don't go to Saugus. No. That's where you dump the illegals. Let Jeff Kuhner and his people deal with it. Not for us. Because we're not nativists. No, we're above it all. We're tolerant and compassionate. They don't know that Irving Berlin was an immigrant. But I have to educate them because I'm Jeff Jacoby. And I need my 30 pieces of silver from the Boston Globe. 617-266-6868. Jim, you're up. Sorry, Comrade Juan, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Comrade.
Thanks for not asking how I am, Jeff. I got a couple things. First of all, to Jeff Jacoby, you don't have to go to Lynn or Lowell or Saugus. It will come to you, and it will come to your family, all right? Now, listen, add this up. Leashes the 5 worst terrorists in the world, opens our borders, biological warfare, which is what this is. Make no mistake about it, all right? This guy is just how anyone can even stand with one thing that he does is just beyond me, Jeff. It really is. You know, so I can't even keep my thoughts together right now, buddy. I'm going to call you back in about 10 or 15.
Okay. Thank you, comrade. Well, no, look. Jeff Jacoby is a Benedict Arnold. That's what they do. There's an invasion, and they side and aid and abet the invaders. That's what him, George Will, I know they're kind. They're essentially fifth columnists. They're conservative fifth columnists. Because in the end, they care about being, quote, respectable. They care about being admired and liked by the liberal media establishment. So George Will shills for the Washington Post, and Jeff Jacoby shills for the Boston Globe. And so, yes, they'll let him get away on a couple of issues. That's fine, usually in foreign policy. But when it comes to real issues, like language, borders, and culture, you better toe the line or you're out. And my friends, do they ever toe the line? I'll tell you what they are. They're French conservatives. They're collaborationists. They're Vichy conservatives. That's Jeff Jacoby in a nutshell. Jim, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning.
Hey, Jim.
I just had a couple of quick questions for you, sir.
Sure.
First question is now I've noticed that nativism is the new liberal word to describe anything that goes against their current policy. And I'm curious, I was looking it up last night, and the definition of it from what I found was that a nativist is someone who is for the citizens of their country before they are for foreigners. Now, how is that a bad thing? Number one. And my second question is I wish you would touch on how the indentured servants came over here. My family came here from Ireland in 1718 as indentured servants. We were lucky to even survive long enough to become an American citizen. Yet, we're supposed to be okay with people flooding across our borders willy-nilly and give them, green cards. We should have a vending machine right on the border. It'd make things a lot easier. What do you think?
Jim, you nailed it. And I'll tell you this, look, let's talk about the Irish in particular, because I love the Irish. That they fled, that your ancestors came as indentured servants, people don't know that. The Irish were treated almost like slaves. The English had turned them into indentured servants. And many of them were brought over. They weren't quite slaves, they were what they called in Europe serfs. One level above slavery. One level. They fled the Irish potato famine. They fled political persecution. Now, when they came here, what did they do? Did they come with guns? Were they smuggling cocaine or methamphetamines? Were they raping and murdering and pillaging? Were they sitting around doing nothing all day, looking for handouts? They were one of the hardest working immigrant groups this country has ever seen. With their bare hands, they built ditches, they built roads, they built factories, they built churches, they paid taxes, they fought in wars. They came off the boat within a couple years. I swear to you, they signed up and joined for the Civil War to keep this union. Some even then in the South, they were so loyal to the South that they fought for the South on both sides. They assimilated. They became Americans. They studied the Constitution. They revered this country, its customs, its traditions. They didn't come here to go on welfare. They didn't come here to go in Section 8 housing. They didn't come here looking for a handout. They came here to work. They came here to produce. They came here to contribute. You know why St. Patrick's Day is so proud for them? Why they hold it with such pride and esteem, rightly so. Why I defend St. Paddy's Day every year. They're not saying how great Ireland is. They're not saying, ooh, let's become more Irish. Let's all go back to Ireland. Let's all speak, Gaelic. St. Paddy's Day is a celebration of the Irish contribution to the American melting pot. These illegals are giving us diseases as MS-13. This state alone, $2 billion a year just to take care of the government benefits for illegal immigrants. What are we talking about? If you want to know the honest truth, I'll tell you the honest truth. When you come to a country legally, that very act shows you want to be an American. It's like getting married. When you go to someone's home and you say, I love your daughter, I love your son, please, can I have your permission to get married? I want to be part of your family. Is that not fundamentally different than me just coming into your home, unwanted, uninvited, and I take your food, and I squat in your house, and I live in your house? That's the fundamental difference. 617-266-6868 is the number. 757 on the great WRKO. My friends, America now, America forever.
News at the top and bottom, talk in between.
Executing assigned host duties flawlessly because I can't do wrong.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.